CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight, winter wallop. The weekend storm socks Cape Breton with up to 150 centimeters of snow.
War of words. The Premier and Mayor of CBRM spar over calls for a state of emergency.
And buried under. Snow comes crashing into this Sydney apartment.
Our storm is finally departing, though lingering flurries, some freezing drizzle, and northerly winds remain breezy throughout the day on Tuesday. Your full forecast is coming up.
Good evening. It has been a historic and record-breaking snowstorm for parts of Nova Scotia. Up to 150 centimeters of snow has fallen in some areas of Cape Breton since Friday.
A local state of emergency is in effect for the Cape Breton Regional Municipality, and a major cleanup is now underway on the island as people try to dig out. The CBC's Haley Ryan has the latest.
I heard there's a car behind there somewhere.
This was a familiar scene in Cape Breton today. There was a lot of digging and shoveling around the island after the heaviest snowfall since the early 90s. People were urged to stay off the roads as crews tried to make some headway.
I don't recall seeing anything like this in the last little while. Not this much snow. Like, it's up past my waist. It's insane. It's like, wow.
A local state of emergency is in effect for Sydney and the Cape Breton Regional Municipality, as is nearby Eskazoni First Nation.
Storm of a century. So I think we're just, I don't think we were quite prepared for this. Nobody was prepared for this, especially in Cape Breton here.
Chief Denny says they called in snow clearing equipment from the province because emergency services could not get through.
We have quite a few dialysis patients as well. They have to go to the hospital. Some of them haven't had a chance to go to dialysis, so it's really very important.
Schools and stores were closed around CBRM, and Sydney ferry crossings to Newfoundland were cancelled. There was plenty of snow farther north around Big Bredor and Ingonish Beach. Over in Albert Bridge, Kent Peters and his wife Deanna shoveled for 9 hours Sunday at their horse farm.
I live here now.
We're not used to having this much come down, so you have to shovel the roof of the barn to make sure the weight doesn't come down on it. Because now, as it's melting, it's getting heavier. There's more. See that? Did you get to enjoy that with me?
The Peters children stayed across the street at their grandparents' because the drifts were too deep to come home. But Kent is looking on the bright side.
We're alive.
We're getting our exercise.
Yeah. I'm going to have rock-solid abs from this. It's fantastic.
Schools and municipal services in CBRM will remain closed on Tuesday as the cleanup continues. Haley Ryan, CBC News, Halifax.
The Provincial Government and Emergency Management Office held a news conference this afternoon to give an update on the cleanup efforts. Premier Tim Houston says snow clearing help is on its way from New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island, and the federal government is also stepping up to help.
On the weekend, we wrote to the federal government asking for any available heavy equipment to help move snow, portable fuel storage that can be transported to replenish snow removing gear on site, and also any air transport that might be available to assist with the delivery of critical supplies, and also where necessary evacuation efforts. So Minister Lohr has heard from the federal government, and they will provision gear out of the Highlands National Park as an initial step.
He's asking anyone in the province who owns a plow to get in touch with their local public works team to find out how they can help. In today's news briefing, Premier Houston also criticized the Cape Breton Regional Municipality for its decision to declare a local state of emergency.
What a state of emergency does not do is get you a plow faster. What a state of emergency does not do is get a road cleared faster. So we know that yesterday CBRM declared a local state of emergency. They can absolutely do that. They don't need provincial approval to do that. We respect their ability to do that. But at the end of the process, I kind of wonder what they'll do with it. Will they do anything with it, or was it more of just a kind of a PR issue? Is kind of what I'm wondering.
Amanda McDougall, the mayor of CBRM, says council declared a state of emergency because it believed it was needed. It says the declaration allows CBRM to order people off the roads, and it also allows the city to more easily procure private snowplow operators to help Public Works clear the snow.
Unfortunately, I just caught wind of the Premier's comments and in the provincial update saying that, the CBRM declaring the state of local emergency was a PR stunt, but I take those words quite personally on behalf of council who deliberated for hours on this because it's so important, and because of the residents of CBRM who pleaded to be recognized for in this state of emergency.
I'll talk to the CBRM mayor about the efforts to get that city back in order after this massive storm. That is our Newsmaker interview just after 6:30.
Meanwhile, with all that snow, the cleanup is going to take a few days. Many people in and around the Sydney area remain stuck at home, including the CBC's Aaron Potty.
So I tried getting into the office today and I ended up getting stuck a few times, and I ended up going on a tractor ride with my dad who lives nearby, and we went down to see what some of the neighbors have been dealing with. Some neighbors are still, their vehicles are buried in snow. Others are trying to shovel out. I actually tried to stop and talk to one neighbor who was out shoveling, and I couldn't even get to him. The snow was so deep, and he said that he's lived in that house for 40 years and has never seen a snowfall quite like this. As you can see, there's a lot of snow behind me. It might be hard to tell, but some of these banks are actually about 3 or 4 feet in height. And I actually live between Sydney and North Sydney, and this behind me is Highway 125. It's usually very busy with commuters making their way into work, and this morning it's very quiet. So crews have been out, trying to get rid of some of this snow, trying to push it out of the way. A lot of people in this area have tractors or snow blowers, and they're trying to pile the snow up as quickly as they can, but of course it just keeps falling. There are some snow banks that have been pushed up so high they're actually nearing the power lines. So right now we're just hoping that the snow stops so that plows can get out and clear the roads and get this snow pushed aside so that people can get back to their commutes, people can get some groceries, get what they need, and we can all stop shoveling. And so I just came down to see how things are on my road. They're still not cleared out, and I'm guessing it's going to be this way for a while. So signing off from North Sydney, Cape Breton, I'm Aaron Potty from CBC News.
Yeah, there are a few people stuck, particularly in Cape Breton, by the looks of those pictures, for sure.
Yeah, a whole lot of snow fell down there, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. When we look at the numbers, basically from Pictou County to eastern PEI, Pictou County, and down to the eastern shore, and east of that line, widespread 70 to 80 to 90 centimeters, and reports closer to 100 centimeters, Spanish Ship Bay, Guysborough County, Ingonish, and certainly into the Sydney area, where again, volunteer observers reporting 150 centimeters in the Sydney area near downtown. So incredible amounts of snow there, and yet 1 centimeter in Yarmouth. So just an incredible gradient with this, from epic to none at all. Now, as we look at the water vapor imagery, this starts on Saturday. This low just sat and spun all weekend. It was a cutoff low. There's no jet stream to carry it along, and so these systems just sit and spin, and unfortunately for us, lots of moisture wrapping in from this, clashing with that cold air to the north and west, and so we were in the snow zone for days on end. Now, as we move forward, we're just going to be looking at a few lingering flurries as this thing finally kicks out of the region, but the winds will remain pretty breezy throughout the day on Tuesday and then become lighter on Wednesday with this area of high pressure settling into the region. And we can be thankful for that area of high pressure as it really sets up Wednesday into Thursday, as this storm riding up the Gulf Stream will stay offshore, a storm for the fish. Now, if this was 2015, this storm would be coming in, right? When it's a big storm like this, it gets everybody wondering and thinking back to previous storms. 2015 has come up a lot, especially March of 2015 when we had In 1 week, those back-to-back storms that dropped 70 to 100 centimeters from Halifax to Sydney. But if we're looking at just individual storms, a couple come to mind. Of course, White Juan gets brought up a lot. 60 to 90 centimeters for western and central areas and into eastern PEI as well. That was a quicker moving storm, though. Basically, a 1 edging into 2-day event. Stronger winds with that one as well. The blizzard of 92 really kind of a lot of comparisons with this one. It was a long duration, multi-day storm as well. From the 31st of January to February 4th, 102 centimeters in Sydney, 75 in the Halifax area, and 163 centimeters in Moncton. The big difference with that one was packing a ton of winds, stronger winds. It was more of a blizzard with gusts up to 140 kilometers per hour, reported with that one. So yeah, a couple of big storms that we'll remember, and we still need a name for this one, which folks are still kind of debating. I kind of like Shumadakity Slam, which was just bantered about here in the newsroom.
Has anyone checked on Shumadakity
That groundhog
Slam?
was very wrong.
Yeah, he hasn't made any appearances since that prediction.
No one's going to help to dig him out, I don't think.
Sure.
Okay, thanks so much, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
While much of Cape Breton and northern Nova Scotia are deep in snow, other areas got off a little easier. Here's the CBC's Paul Palmer with how people in Halifax are coping with all the snow.
It was a storm that required several rounds of cleanup. While main arteries are clear, there is still a lot of work to do to make all city streets drivable.
Snow clearing operations are still continuing, and they will continue for the next week. Our main issues right now are sidewalks, bike lanes, and that'll take some significant staff power, both with blowers and with good old manual shoveling from our personnel in order to clear all of those routes.
Plows out doing their work over the weekend were impeded in many areas by parked or stranded vehicles left on streets. Halifax police handed out over 500 tickets, and the overnight parking ban remains in effect tonight.
Some of the plows couldn't get up the roads at all due to the amount of cars, and some plows had to actually back down and couldn't go up the street, so come back later to those routes, but it was really impeding our overall clearing operations.
Getting rid of the snow off streets and driveways and parking lots is now the biggest task. This giant snow melter was being put through the test today, as it can melt huge amounts of snow in no time at all, with the snow water making its way down storm drains. This work was being done in the Sobeys parking lot. For those living without a home, it made for a rough weekend. Halifax ground search teams conducted wellness checks at various homeless encampments. With the worst of the weather now past, some tents are half buried in snow.
Everyone survived. The biggest challenge, especially downtown, there wasn't a lot of food options available, and also in terms of footing, just to move around, the city was basically shut down. Today is the first day that everybody's been able to move around.
Surgeries had to be postponed as some services were unavailable at some hospitals. Schools were closed for the day, and that meant there was lots of activity at Citadel Hill, with sledders making the most of their day off.
Honestly, we've seen all the snow and figured it'd be a perfect day to hit the hill and Citadel Hill at that. This is actually our first time here.
It's been really fun. It's definitely been some good exercise, and it's a nice way to spend the snow day.
Paul Palmer, CBC News, Halifax.
There is plenty of snow to shovel on the ground, but residents should also look up. There have been reports of burns collapsing from the heavy snow. The Insurance Bureau of Canada says outbuildings are quite vulnerable. Everyone should check their roofs.
Once it starts getting warmer and the sun gets to it, it starts melting. And that melting, that freezing and melting and freezing and melting, gets underneath the shingles. And it starts lifting the shingles, and then as it starts melting again, it can seep down into your home. So it's very important you try and keep your roof as clear as possible.
HADOC says to contact your insurance provider in the event of any incidents. She says it's also best practice to keep exits, windows, and vents around homes clear of drifting snow.
When you're out shoveling your driveway, don't forget about your heat pump. And that's according to experts who say customers need to know more about winter maintenance. Thousands of Nova Scotians are now using heat pumps to heat their homes, but when it's buried in snow and ice, it uses up more electricity and can break down. Experts say removing that will make the heat pump run more efficiently.
What we do if a unit outside, we clear the debris and the snow out of it, of course, make sure the filters are clean inside. And then if they're really iced up, we'll take warm to hot water and pour over the machines to help defrost them out.
If you do have to pour water on your heat pump, experts say make sure it is turned off beforehand and use water that's warm but not boiling. He says too much heat can affect the machine.
A Sydney resident was playing video games with his girlfriend on Sunday afternoon when what would otherwise have been quite a quiet day inside was suddenly interrupted by the storm.
That's right, an onslaught of snow crashed through their apartment window, landing on the bed. The CBC's Richard Woodbury spoke to them by phone earlier today.
And I was playing video game and all of a sudden, boom, snow on me. The window just fall over on me on bed. Like the bed you see in the picture, I was sitting on there. And I was like, what happened? Then I leave the room quickly and just calm down and go out and ask my friends. Then it happened so fast. The windows burst out because, on the roof there's big chunks of ice falling down. Then the big chunk falls down. I was just on my bed and it fall down and boom, the living room window and my room window gone. Then 10 minutes later, boom, another gone. Then 10 minutes later, boom, another gone.
So all told, how many windows at your place broke?
There was like minimum, we fixed like at least 6, 7. And the snow was almost to the second floor windows. Because the snow was fine, because it was accumulating from the roof, falling right in front of our windows. So it was accumulating so much, the pressure was so intense, it burst. So I just go out and 10, 12 people came in. We shovel my house, put it there, then go to next apartment because mine was already broken, so we don't want to happen to next blocks too. So they go very quickly and shovel the snow outside from the window, so there is less pressure. And by that time, another window was broken from my neighbor's house, so we fixed that too.
For me, that might be one of the lasting images of this storm.
I know, shoveling outside is one thing, but shoveling inside is something you don't expect to be doing.
No kidding, for sure. Okay, first quick break on the way. Stay with us.
There is a lot more to come on CBC Nova Scotia News. Coming up, Sketch Harbor, how a Nova Scotia photographer is creating a tongue-in-cheek homage to his home community.
Romance scams. People posing online as potential suitors are duping Canadians out of millions of dollars.
And yep, that's what lots of folks are doing today and tomorrow and probably the next day. Ryan is up next with his weather forecast. We're back after this.
All right, how are we doing? Everyone got enough? How are the backs doing?
Yeah, no, definitely. I didn't do any shoveling, I'm going to confess.
Wow, that's a great arrangement you have there, Amy. I want to get that.
Tom, did you?
I certainly did.
Yeah.
Because you have some questions about whether I...
Yeah, that's right. Whether you got your kids out doing it or not.
No, I was out this weekend for sure.
I did clear off the car. I cleared off the car. That counts, right?
Yes, that definitely counts.
Okay.
Yeah, my kids are still at the age where you shovel the driveway and then they're sliding on the mounds down under the driveway
making
again.
More of a mess. You had a busy weekend, haven't
you?
Yeah,
you were everywhere.
must be tired.
Yeah, it was. I'll sleep well tonight for sure. With the heat pad nearby. From all the shoveling, I'm sure the heat pads will be going. The hot water bottles for sure. Folks are sore. I want to start with the snowfall map again because you post a map like this after a storm like this, and there are so many comments saying, I had way more than this. And for sure, I'm sure some did have more in their backyards. We'll post it again just to show you here. And again, the challenging thing with a storm like this, as you can imagine, with so much blowing and drifting, even the volunteer observers from Coco Ross who are trained to take snowfall measurements with a snowboard in their comment section saying this was a challenging one. Really tough to get an accurate measurement, especially when you have, from Pictou County eastward, with those amounts were so heavy. But even in the Halifax area, the airport reporting up closer to 80 centimeters, although that seems to be higher than anything in that neck of the woods. But 53 in Fall River, and Rawdon Mines was around 70 centimeters. So definitely a heavy amount of snow. We can all agree on that.
A whole lot of snow.
A whole lot of snow indeed. And again, just can't get over 1 in Yarmouth. And 150 in...
They missed the show completely in Yarmouth.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about where we are right now. So temperatures right around the freezing mark. And those northerly winds obviously still a factor. You can see sustained in the 20, 30 kilometer per hour range. Digby County gusting closer to 50 there along the Digby Neck area. And you can see those gusts even stronger than that. The gusts are going to continue to be an issue over the next couple of hours. And you can see as this storm still spins to our east. The bulk of the action here right now, PEI across into southeast New Brunswick, and now edging, down towards the valley where there's some bands of snow there. Still seeing some bands of snow tracking into the Cape Breton region as well and Sydney, but it's for the most part light. Accumulation tonight in the trace to as much as 5 centimeter range, but more so traced to 2. There's the low, still spinning around, again, just south of Sable, impacting Newfoundland as well. Area of high pressure setting up to our north with that cold air in place, and this will slowly drive this system out. Tonight, though, winds still from the north, 30 gusting 40 to 50 kilometers per hour. Temperatures ranging between 0 and -3 for our overnight lows tonight. Tomorrow, near 0 to +2. In terms of daytime highs. The wind still from the north, 20 gusting 40 to 50, and you're thinking, okay, it's a northerly wind, why not colder than this? But this is air that's been swirling around that low off the coast, and again, that relatively warmer water warming this air mass up, and so is a bit of a marine air mass that is backing its way into the region as we speak. There are those flurries again tonight, Northumberland Shore into Cape Breton. This will be the case again for tomorrow, though it does look like Cape Breton really wraps up tomorrow. Best chance is going to be right along that Northumberland Shore region. Even that looks like it's for the most part going to be isolated, but the clouds are certainly going to dominate tomorrow. But flurry chances, Colchester, Cumberland to the New Glasgow region, but in the 30 to 40% range throughout the day. Drier, brighter as we work our way towards the south and west. Temperatures are going to be right again for the Wednesday time period. This is Wednesday now. You can see we're looking at temperatures ranging between -2 on Wednesday and right around +2 in through the south and west again. So forecast models even edging up towards, in places like Shelburne County, should be interesting with this type of a setup with this northeast flow, edging towards the 3 and 4 degree mark right here and through Shelburne County on Wednesday. We shall see. Now, Wednesday, this area of high pressure again will continue to clear us out. And Thursday, there's that storm I mentioned off the top of the show, thankfully will remain offshore. This would be another crushing snowfall for sure if it was coming in, but it will not come in thanks to that area of high pressure. Thursday looks like we'll see variable clouds. Friday, I think cloudier than not with certainly building clouds. And then our next system Showers and flurries. I know folks likely concerned to see that, Tom and Amy. It doesn't look like a huge warm-up, doesn't look like a big precipitation maker as well, which is good, not a heavy rainfall event, but certainly some showers and flurries, and temperatures getting mild throughout this week, and staying mild, I should say, but turning milder. And so folks are going to want to get that snow off their decks and their roofs, and it's only going to get heavier.
Yeah, for
sounds
sure.
like it.
Okay, Ryan, thanks so much.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Well, Aaron Mackenzie Fraser is a commercial photographer who lives in Ketch Harbor. When he's not taking photos of people and things professionally, he shows his work at the Sketch Harbor Department of Tourism and Social Club.
Love it. That's what he calls his fisherman's shack and community space near his home. It's a little spot filled with odds and sods, postcards, matches, and plenty of references to the department's motto, "Please don't come here." Fraser spoke with CBC's Information Morning about how locals and tourists alike are reacting to Ketch Harbor's Sketch Harbor Department of Tourism. Have a look.
In Sketch Harbor, we're satisfied with what we have and have actually no real interest in trying to get people to come here. Well, it's a 12.5 by 16.5 wooden structure, outbuilding that's approximately 100 plus years old. So it was here on the property, and it was a falling down shack that was imploding on itself. I mean, there's a variety of things that are in here, and some things were here when I came in and started working on the building itself, like some of the saw blades that are here hanging off the walls, some of the rope that was here. You know, the floorboards are original. You know, I described this place as a photography studio, a art gallery, and a rustic hangout. I've been living in this community for about 8 years now. I was actually kind of enchanted by the house on my way to Crystal Crescent Beach when I first moved to Nova Scotia. There was something about this place, and there was something about this house on the corner that struck me and had always kind of stayed with me. And then 8 years ago, I moved to the property and started taking pictures of the neighborhood, things that I've been growing in the garden, of some of the people. And then I just didn't know what I was doing with these pictures, because they were often a little bit darker, a little bit more mystical in a certain way. I thought, hey, these photographs could actually live inside here. You know, Sketch Harbor Department of Tourism is on Google Maps, so you can easily find it. I would prefer, it would be nice to kind of set up a bit of a meeting. A few weeks ago, a family of 5 Ukrainians came and were very curious about the Department of Tourism that they saw on Google Maps, and I think half of them were confused, rightfully so, like most people, and the other half were entirely enamored and were taking videos and asking questions and really interested in kind of Sketch Harbor as what it was, you know. I mean, I've had kind of mixed reactions from the neighbors, you know, like some of them think that I am saying it's like a dangerous place to live, and I don't think that at all. I have a deep love and affection for Ketch Harbor and Nova Scotia in general. But there is something slightly under the surface of any community and any property, really. The thing that I find funny, and I have, you know, big respect for the clients that I work for, and I have done much work for tourism entities. So, like, I understand the process that's involved in kind of photographing these things to get people to come to places. In Sketch Harbor, we're satisfied with what we have and have actually no real interest in trying to get people to come here. And I think it's also a reflection of how I feel. I don't want to have to try to sell something with my, like, personal photography. People say, oh, you're selling things. I'm like, no, have a free postcard, have a free box of matches. Here is our tourism guide. So it's open for visitors. Although, tongue-in-cheek, and in some ways, Sketch Harbor does ask you to please just don't come here, because we don't need people to come visit.
That makes me want to go even more.
He's having fun with it, isn't he?
Yeah, he sure is.
Yep.
Put that on the list of places for me to go, for sure. Up next, I'll talk with CBRM Mayor Amanda McDougall about that city trying to cope with this weekend's massive winter storm. She is our newsmaker.
Please stay with us. You're watching CBC Nova Scotia News.
Cape Breton was particularly hard hit in this weekend's massive storm, with many people being almost buried in their own homes. The mayor of CBRM is calling for extra help to try to get her city back to normal. Amanda McDougall is the mayor of CBRM. Mayor McDougall, how are people doing there? What are you hearing, at least anecdotally?
Yeah, so people are grateful that the snow has stopped, but I think it's fair to say that some of the panic has really set in. We've been days with this ongoing snow, and it has accumulated to amounts that we're just not used to. We don't have the infrastructure to remove in a timely fashion, and there's a lot of people that are stuck in their houses, and that is inducing a lot of nervousness, fear, and like I said, really rightfully so, panic.
No doubt people are getting anxious and some are really worried. You declared a state of emergency. What does that allow you to do that you normally wouldn't be able to do after a storm like this?
Yeah, so a state of local emergency is actually a very important tool in terms of public safety. So council convened an emergency meeting yesterday virtually and unanimously supported the declaration of a state of local emergency. It allowed us to, in essence, say, look, stop. We are limiting travel right now that is not essential. We need people to stay off the roads. What was happening is cars were going out, getting stuck in roads. Tow companies aren't able to come and move that car. That car becomes abandoned and a true hazard. A hazard to the public works crews who are out trying to do that important clearing. Also a hazard to first responders. There was a story I heard. A car became abandoned after not being able to move and stuck in snow. The snow accumulated over top of it. When the plows did get out to go do some snow clearing, the plow crashed into the car. So incredibly important to keep people off the roads and keep only essential folks on the road. It also allows us to go outside of our procurement policies and say to our community, hey, anybody and everybody who is able to help, who has machines, please contact Public Works because we need your help.
So
Municipality.
you're ordering people off the road, and if people don't stay off the roads, what will happen?
They can be ticketed, and that gives us that authority. So unfortunately, I just caught wind of the Premier's comments and in the provincial update saying that, the CBRM declaring the state of local emergency was a PR stunt, but I take those words quite personally on behalf of council who deliberated for hours on this because it's so important, and because of the residents of CBRM who pleaded to be recognized for in this state of emergency.
And so the province has said that there is some help on the way. Are you seeing any evidence of that? Are you seeing any of that equipment?
Not a lot right now. I know many of our Department of Transportation provincial machines are actually in use. Halifax, Pictou, you name it. Folks are digging out. We're not the only community that receives snow. So that's going to be a slow progression when we see that provincial support come into play. I am happy to say that our request for assistance did go through the province and was escalated up to the federal government. And I think very soon that we're going to have the details of a really well thought out support plan in place from the feds.
Yeah, so the federal government, the Coast Guard and Parks Canada, perhaps others, are saying they will be helping. Where do you need the help? What kind of help do you need?
Well, first and foremost, removing snow. That is priority one. But also right up there with priority one is checking on human beings. So with that package of support coming from the federal government is exactly what we've been pleading for. We need human resources on the ground to help do that snow removal of houses. I'm looking outside my window right now. We have, drifts of snow that encompass the entire first story of my neighbor's house. Somebody who is a senior living on their own, somebody who has physical disabilities, they don't have the capacity to go and remove all of this snow. So having those human resources on the ground to help is going to be tremendous.
And are you hearing reports of people in distress?
Every day, every moment. Yeah, people are so nervous. Not only people who are here, but family members of people. Early hours of yesterday, hearing from family members who live out of province saying, my mom lives by herself. She's got this medical condition. Please make sure she's going to be okay. So CBRM, unfortunately, we're really good at this because we've had to go through it before, but we are working very hard to compile that list of who needs what and where are they to make sure that we can leave no person behind.
And just quickly before I let you go, do you have any sense of how long it'll take CBRM to, kind of get back to normal?
Days, yeah. This is going to be a slow, tough slog for sure. Like I said, I'll use my own house as an example. We can't plow this driveway with a regular truck plow. The snow is so incredibly dense and heavy. You actually can only see the roof of a car if the car was to drive by our house right now. So yeah, it's going to take time to get through this, but we can do it. We are an amazing and resilient community that have gone through so many challenges together.
Yeah, what a winter, Wallop. Amanda McDougall, thanks so much for talking to us about it.
No, I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Coming up, a pigeon problem. Why the City of Toronto is piloting a new bird feed that contains birth control.
Police in London, Ontario today apologized to the victim of an alleged sexual assault by hockey players in 2018.
The woman reported the alleged assault to police in June in 2018. Police closed the case, but after a review, reopened it in 2022.
I want to extend, on behalf of the London Police Service, my sincerest apology to the victim, to her family, for the amount of time that it has taken to reach this point.
The players skated for the Canadian team that competed at the 2018 World Junior Championship. 4 of them now play in the NHL, and the other one plays in Switzerland. The players' lawyers appeared in court by video conference this morning. The case has been put over until the end of April.
The CBC News investigation has looked at dozens of publicly reported sexual assault cases involving junior hockey players. It found a conviction rate of 15% compared to 42% for other cases. Jonathan Gatehouse looks at the factors that could give players an advantage in legal proceedings.
Sexual assault allegations against hockey players seem to be all too common, but criminal convictions are relatively rare when it comes to junior players in Canada. CBC News found 47 publicly reported cases where young hockey players were charged with sexual assault dating back to 1989. 7 of those cases ended with a guilty verdict. That's a conviction rate of just 15% for the small sample. That is far below the average conviction rate of 42% for all sexual assault cases before the courts, according to Statistics Canada. University of Ottawa law professor Daphne Gilbert, who is an expert in sexual assault law, says fame, status, and financial resources may give players an advantage in such court cases.
It's not surprising to me that athletes get, first of all, more of the benefit of a doubt than the average person might get. I think there's a sense of wanting to believe in our celebrities, especially hockey players, live in a very rarefied atmosphere in Canada.
The numbers may not tell the whole story. An accusation is not the same as proof, and Canada's justice system presumes innocence. But sexual assault is also a vastly underreported crime in Canada, and when charges are brought, StatsCan's figures show almost half of the cases ultimately end up being stayed or withdrawn. There, too, another seeming advantage for Canada's junior hockey stars. 2/3 of the cases CBC News examined, 31 of the 47, saw the charges dropped. Jonathan Gatehouse, CBC News, Toronto.
Buckingham Palace says King Charles has been diagnosed with cancer. The palace clarifies that the king does not have prostate cancer, but a form of cancer was discovered while he was being treated for an enlarged prostate last month. He began undergoing cancer treatment today and won't perform any public-facing duties until it is complete. Charles became king in September of 2022 after his mother passed away. Prince Harry, who quit royal duties in 2020 and moved to the U.S., is expected to fly to the U.K. to see his father.
Parts of California are being slammed by a weather event known as an atmospheric river for a second time. It's bringing high winds, snow, and heavy rain.
So this backyard here is just getting wrecked.
States of emergency have been declared in at least 8 counties, and well over 1 million people in the Los Angeles area are under flash flood warnings. More than 20 centimeters of rain has already fallen today. Winds in excess of 125 kilometers an hour have brought down trees and power lines. Evacuation orders have been issued due to the risk of mudslides. The affected area stretches from LA to San Francisco and as far inland as Lake Tahoe. Online scams dupe unsuspecting Canadians out of millions of dollars a year. And one of the most lucrative for the con artists is the so-called romance scam. One fraudster recently made contact with the CBC's Erica Johnson, and once the ruse was up, he agreed to go public with a rare interview.
The notification flashed on my phone, an Instagram message from a stranger. Nice smile, he wrote. I'm Bobby Brown from Sacramento, California. He claimed to be an oil engineer working in another country. Of course, a classic claim of a romance scammer. To convince me, he sends this photo ID, but the signature doesn't match his name, and also shows me his neighborhood, supposedly in Edinburgh, but the cars are on the wrong side of the road. After weeks of professing his love, I call him out. Reluctantly, he gives up the ruse, says he'll talk if CBC conceals his identity, worried about his safety. His real hometown? Not Sacramento, Ogara, Nigeria, where he says he was forced to become a romance scammer after his father lost his job. He says he went to live with a man who trained him and others.
Late in the night, you're going to be called to the living room, get your social media account ready, start hustling.
He says he works on his own now, tells women, often in Canada, that he can't access his bank account since, he's working overseas, needs data for his phone. They send him gift cards like these that he sells for cash. When a woman's clearly in love, he says, he goes for the big payoff, claims his son has been rushed to an American hospital and he urgently needs her to send a $3,000 deposit for care. This social psychologist says, unbelievable as the stories sound, people who think they're in a romantic relationship can feel obligated to help.
Even a simple request that might seem outlandish from an observer's point of view might feel different when you are the one being asked to do things.
Last year, 945 Canadians lost more than $50 million to romance scammers, about $53,000 each, and that's just what victims reported. The scammer tells me he knows it's wrong, but poverty runs deep.
We're sorry, we're not happy doing this, but we have no option.
Authorities say the best protection: don't engage with strangers online who profess their love quickly, who claim they live near you but are working overseas, and who pressure you to send money. Instead, delete those messages and keep your cash. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Pigeons are proving to be a pesky problem in parts of Toronto. Local residents and others are calling on city officials to address the booming population by focusing on the birds' reproductive health. Annam Khan explains.
Pigeons in Toronto, a particular nuisance in the Yonge and Finch intersection, where they target restaurants, streets, and even people.
They're out of control. They're always watching, keeping an eye on us, who's my victim today.
It's been quite difficult to deal with the mess they make.
It's prompted some residents to install screens and spikes, but the problem continues. Jolie has fond memories of the birds back home in Hong Kong.
We eat the baby pigeon there, very yummy.
But even he is disgusted by this mess.
I don't like it.
So how do we reduce the number of pigeons and do it in a humane way? Well, the city put them on the pill for a pilot project last year, and it was deemed successful, so it's back on this year's proposed budget.
There's hope in the battle against pigeon poop.
Yonge and Finch is in Councillor Lily Chang's ward. She's asking the city to include Willowdale in the project.
Some people were saying my balcony is taken over by pigeon poop.
So how does this method work? Bird feeders are laced with birth control for birds, already set up on rooftops in 4 locations across the city, one soon to be added downtown. Toronto's chief veterinarian says the method is more humane than a popular alternative where pest control companies use poisons and trappings to kill the birds.
The pigeon population is feral. There is a small wild population, but mostly it's feral domestic pigeons. There's also, we've put in a bylaw to limit the number of pigeons that people can have in Toronto.
It's worked for Vancouver's transit system. They used it on and off along the SkyTrain system since 2019.
Things have just kind of remained steady since we've introduced the birth control program.
And it seems to be working here too. Toronto has already seen a decrease in the number of pigeons, and coming this summer, we'll get a better picture. Excuse me, how do you feel about going on birth control? Annam Khan, CBC News, Toronto.
Canada's main stock index fell more than 200 points today in a broad-based decline, while U.S. stock markets also moved lower. Here's a look at the numbers. Right, not sure if you knew this or not, but it's National Weather Person's Day in the United States today, and I think we should be extending that to Canada.
Let's declare it here for sure.
Given
Anybody
the weekend
deserves
we've had.
an award, it's you.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Yeah, listen, keeping my head low, though, I have to admit, after all that snow.
You're not Shubenacadie Sam.
No,
right?
you're not.
That's true. That is true. Boy, Sam must be really keeping us in.
Little sheepish.
Sure, yeah.
We mentioned earlier
Mm,
Shubenacadie Slam.
you're liking that, aren't you?
I'm really liking that name. Shout out to Blair Sanderson here in our newsroom for throwing that one our way. Okay, viewer picture of the day, and we're going to zoom in on Inverness. And this was sent to me yesterday on Facebook when I was asking folks to send their pictures of the storm. And this is my favorite one so far. So Marilyn Ellison sent this shot of her mom, Eleanor.
Thumbs up.
Eleanor giving the big thumbs up. 92 years young.
Awesome.
Wow.
Riding the storm out in Inverness, and a big thumbs up.
She's seen a couple storms.
bet.
She has seen a couple storms for sure. Tonight, temperatures ranging between 0 and -2. And as we look into tomorrow, again, those flurries are going to be most prevalent in those northerly winds from Sydney down the Northumberland shore, edging towards Truro and Kentville. That's where we'll see our best chances tomorrow. Really not looking at flurries much in along the Atlantic coastline, though maybe a 30% risk. And still a lingering slight risk on Wednesday for the Northumberland shore and into Cape Breton, but overall pretty quiet. Note brighter skies towards the south and west with that area of high pressure that is so lovely that it's coming to pay us a visit for Wednesday into Thursday as it parks overhead. And as I mentioned earlier, thanks to that high, what would be a pretty crushing second storm is, staying offshore.
You might have had to go into hiding.
That's right. I'd be with Sam in the hole.
All right, Europe's largest 3D printed building is now complete after some unforeseen delays. That's the ceremonial key being handed over. The building is 55 meters long and about 9 meters or 29 feet high.
While the printing part took 170 hours in total, there were some setbacks along the way, like sourcing the right type of roof and doors to work with the unconventional shape and materials.
All in all, that meant 10 months from start to finish, but with lessons learned, the developer is already on to the next project, 3D printing a building 3 times bigger than this one.
Wow.
Go for it.
Yeah.
That's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good night.